Are you struggling to come up with original content week in and week out? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients, let them talk about what they care about most, and never run out of content ideas again. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show. Welcome back to B2B Growth. I'm Logan Lyles with Sweetfish Media. I've got with me today Marti Powles. She is the Chief Operating Officer over at New Benefits. Marti, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Logan.
Absolutely. It is a pleasure to have you, Marti. We're going to be talking about growth from an operations perspective. But as you and I were chatting a little bit offline, I think it's going to have implications for sales, marketing, and anyone who's contributing to company growth, especially with the organizational structure you guys have over at New Benefits that I think folks are going to be excited to hear about and really learn from. But before we get into the conversation today, Marti, I would love for you to tee folks up with a little bit of background on yourself and what the team over at New Benefits is up to these days.
Sounds great. My name is Marti Powles. I've been with New Benefits for 25 years. We're a company that is getting ready to celebrate our 30th anniversary. We are a wholesaler of non-insured benefits focused on the Insurance Association Affinity business model. So we work directly with insurance companies, agencies, associations, financial institutions that want to sell additional products to their consumer base. And we pride ourselves on working with our customers to augment the services they already have just to make themselves even more valuable to their customer base.
I love it. So, Marti, as you and I were talking a little bit offline, a big part of your growth story at New Benefits, which I didn't even realize, 30-year company, you've been there for 25 years. So you've seen a lot, I'm sure, good, bad, and indifferent along the way. So that's why I'm really excited to dig into this conversation. You mentioned something that's always been a part of your culture that has really been the key fuel to your growth is really listening to your customers and having that feed the innovation that you're consistently striving for on a regular basis. Could you speak to that a little bit as we kick things off today?
Yes, we've learned over the years that if you listen closely to what your customers are saying to you, that it will really spur either the need for a new product or potentially a new service or tool that you're going to build. And we pride ourselves on paying attention to what they're looking for, what they're saying to us. It has really prompted us to build some custom print solutions for our customers, custom products within the portfolio, as well as just the way our client services and member services department responds to the business.
I love what you're talking about there, Marti. And I know the next thing you wanted to share with listeners is really about having the right people in the right places. So as you're listening to customers, as you're figuring out what things do you need to develop, what do you need to offer, how do you need to tweak your product or change your service for a better customer experience, it becomes getting the right people in the right places. Tell us a little bit about, some of the lessons you guys have learned in that area over your 30 years of growth.
Yes, so our president and CEO and myself work closely with the managers and the departments to identify where the gaps are within the business based on any new initiatives we have going on and identify if we have the right resources within the business to fill those gaps. Oftentimes, that means that we may create a position that's never existed before, promote somebody within the business into that position. We have a lot of people that have started in our customer service department and evolved within the business, or in our our client services department and evolved. So our EVP of operations started as a client service rep, and she identified some areas within the business that we needed to improve. And looking at her recommendations, we took her thoughts and created a position that was first just a operations assistant position, and then she became vice president of vendor relations, and now she's EVP of operations. The president of our company started in member services and became the supervisor for member services, and then became vice president of member services and client services, and has evolved to now being a president of the company. So we find that paying attention to the skill sets that you have within the business and what they are offering is important to continue to grow your business.
Yeah, absolutely. I can attest to that in a couple of stops along my career. I can remember a previous company I was a part of where folks moved from service to sales because of looking at the skill set and the knowledge that they had. Oftentimes, that sort of flexibility and kind of shuffling around of people in the seats on the bus, if you will, it can cause some disruption. It can mean that you've got to do some really good change management and as much planning as you can. But I've seen it on our own team here. We've had folks who were in an administrative role that were really keen to start helping on the social media side of the business. We've had, a producer in Jeremy Wellman here on the team who, really has a lot of video skills. And as we've built out that piece of our business, he's kind of leading the charge there. And so when you have a lot of that change, it becomes a lot to manage. But I think it does two things. You alluded to one of them there, Marty, is it improves the customer experience, because people who have been on the team for a while, they recognize some of those gaps in your service or things that are missing from what you're offering your customers. And at the same time, it allows you to grow because you retain people longer, giving them this kind of flexible career path within the company. It's not that, well, you started out as an inside sales rep and the only path for you is to an enterprise account executive and to the VP of sales. And if you don't want to do that, then there's not a place for you. So I think it's kind of twofold fueling your growth there as you have that flexibility to, potentially change around the seats on the bus, if you will. Marty, talk a little bit about, we touched on change management there when it comes to roles, people, career path, but what about reviewing processes from an operations perspective? I bet you've got a few things to talk about there as well.
Yes, so we feel like we have to constantly review processes through the existing employees, but we also encourage new employees when they come on to learn what the processes are and then question those processes. And if the answer is that's how we've always done it, that's the wrong answer, and we need to ask more questions. And we feel like it's important to always be questioning whether the process still fits based on the evolution of the business and the changes that have happened. So I don't know that we could ever say that there is just one set way and time in which the processes get reviewed, as much as it's this continuous encouragement of our employees to question, to look at what is being done and make sure that it still makes sense.
Hey everybody, Logan with Sweetfish here. If you've been listening to the show for a while, you know we're big proponents of putting out original, organic content on LinkedIn. But one thing that's always been a struggle for a team like ours is to easily track the reach of that LinkedIn content. That's why I was really excited when I heard about Shield the other day from a connection on, you guessed it, LinkedIn. Since our team started using Shield, I've loved how it's let us easily track and analyze the performance of our LinkedIn content without having to manually log it ourselves. It automatically creates reports and generates some dashboards that are incredibly useful to see things like what content's been performing the best and what days of the week are we getting the most engagement and our average views per post. I'd highly suggest you guys check out this tool if you're putting out content on LinkedIn. And if you're not, you should be. It's been a game changer for us. If you go to shieldapp.ai and check out the 10-day free trial, you can even use our promo code B2B Growth to get a 25% discount. Again, that's shieldapp.ai, and that promo code is B2B Growth. All one word. All right, let's get back to the show. So tell me a little bit, it sounds like you guys have this culture where folks need to understand that, hey, there is this continual state of change, which is exciting. It means there's more opportunity. It means there's constant improvement. But it also means that, some people might have a little bit more unease with that, depending on their personality type or, their experience in the past, where this mindset of continual change and growth, it just hasn't been their experience before. I know, we've seen that internally on our team. So I'd love to hear from you as a leader within the business with, 25 plus years, looking at all of this change management and the change happening. What are some of the things that you guys do to either identify the folks that will thrive in that environment or just help set expectations for life within that environment, right?
That's a great question. I think one of the things that we do that may be different than some companies is how we handle our interview process. So our HR and hiring managers are very involved in the initial interviewing stages. And once they've identified some key candidates that they feel are a good fit for the organization, then either the president of the company or myself or both of us interview those candidates for culture fit. And we're looking to see if they are up for that challenge of continuous change, if they're here for the journey and want to be a part of building something exciting and not just coming for a job. Because if they don't have that mindset, if they're not interested in really being part of change, then they're going to get frustrated. They're not going to be successful. It's just going to create disruption for everybody involved. So we feel like it's really important to find that right fit from the beginning. And then we encourage people to make sure that they want to be here, that they enjoy what they're doing, and that they want to make a difference for the organization. And I think that's what helps them to be comfortable with the continual change.
That makes a lot of sense. Kind of getting out in front of that, having that very candid conversation with higher levels of leadership in the interview process, as opposed to just, okay, let's bring anybody we can that can fill a seat and that can do this job, but are they a fit for this environment of continuous change? Which leads me to my last question for you, Marti. I was really intrigued as you were sharing with me before about really your flat organizational structure. You mentioned being the COO, you have some other functional roles within the business that don't normally fit within operations, finance, compliance, IT, sales, rolling up to you and you kind of overseeing all of those. Tell us a little bit about how that's maybe a little bit different than other structures and what are some of the benefits and challenges there? It sounds like, that flat organizational structure, I heard a little bit of it there, and you and your president getting involved early in the hiring process, which I think is a little bit atypical and has some benefits for you guys. I'd love for you to kind of expand on that a little bit here.
Yes, I think part of it is that our company when I started with the company 25 years ago, I was the fifth employee in the company. And so when you're a small company, everybody wears a lot of hats and everybody learns to do a little bit of everything that is required to make the company successful. And as you grow, it's really easy to lose some of those touch points and some of the connections that you had when you were a small company. And we felt like it was really important to keep that culture and keep that same environment. So our CEO is extremely involved and connected with our day-to-day operations. Myself and the president are involved in all the day-to-day operations. And we feel like it's important that we're all willing to roll our sleeves up and get involved in whatever it is that needs to be done. I do, as COO, have a unique role of having sales, IT, finance, as well as our EVP of operations all reporting to me. And while that may sound odd, the value to that is that we sell what we create, and we create what we're going to sell. And we make sure that we're going to be able to deliver on what is being sold, because we're all connected and aligned and paying attention to those talk tracks, as well as the deliverables internally that are required whenever sales is out promising sometimes something that doesn't currently exist, and we have to find ways to make that happen. It's the flexibility that we have as an organization that has also really been a key to making us successful in the last 30 years.
Yeah, I really hear what you're saying there, Marti. I don't mean to keep bringing it back to Sweetfish, but so many of the things that you're talking about I see parallels within our own organization. I mean, we're a good bit behind you guys in our own growth story, but, joining as employee number 4, seeing the growth we've had over the last year and a half, I can definitely relate to that. Just one, trying to keep that same feel when you're at an early stage as much as possible, and also keeping that tight loop between customer success, in our case, producers that are producing podcasts, and sales. And what you said about selling something that doesn't exist yet, we are very much in line with you guys, trying to be a nimble, agile organization and responding to what our customers need. And sometimes that means you're having conversations about what you'd like to deliver and what your customers will want before you have the processes and you have everything worked out. So you need that tight interaction. You need that alignment between all the moving parts of the organization. So anyhow, I just, from my own experience, can really hear the truth in what you're sharing, Marti. I think it's great advice and great lessons learned for our listeners today. So on that note, if anybody listening to this would like to stay connected with you, reach out, ask any follow-up questions, pick your brain on operations or growth in general, Marti, what's the best way for them to reach out or stay connected with you guys?
The best way is to reach us at newbenefits.com is our website, and my contact information is on the website. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. And I'd love to visit with anybody who would like to learn more about how we've become what we have in the last 30 years.
I love it. Well, congratulations on your success and best wishes as you guys continue your growth story. Marti, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Logan. I look forward to watching your continued growth as well.
Thank you so much.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big 3, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.